So if you look at the next slide, it says we all grew together. If you'll notice, this period from 1947 to 79 pretty much matches that bottom of the curve that we saw on the first slide. And this shows when the government tracks income, they do it by household income, where that's the measure we're using here. And just to simplify this, if we had 5 million families reporting income tax, what the government does is they say the bottom 20% is the first million, the second is the next million. So that's how that's divided. Is, you know, take all the households and divide it into 5 equal pieces. That's what those quintiles are. So the bottom during this period made 0 to 10,000. And even at the top 20%, you only had to make 32,000. Boy, doesn't that seem quaint now? And the top 5% was just over 50,000. But what you really notice is those percentages at the top, they're all about 100%. Some a little more, some a little less. But everybody was moving forward. And even if you were in the top 5 and you only got 86%, you still had a higher income. So in total dollars, you were still, you know, moving forward at a faster rate in total dollars. Now if you look at the next slide, you'll see what's happened between 1979 and 2007. And I just want to be clear, you know, this is not a partisan issue. This was an equal opportunity deal, right? We had Republicans and Democrats in charge federally during these periods. And so this move away from a fair distribution of income has happened under all watches. The numbers, and I'm sorry, I'm going to improve my Excel spreadsheet skills here, but I couldn't figure out how to get the numbers on here. The bottom 1% now made between 20 and 25, or between 0 and 25,000. And look at what their share of the growth during those periods, those 3 decades. Virtually nothing. They made no progress. And you can just see that enormous shift of income to the top. And the top 5% is now an income of over $184,000 a year. And of course, many are well into the millions. During that same period, the stock market, which primarily benefits those with lots of stock, went up about 800%. CEO pay also went up about 7% or 800%, from just over $1 million to over $11 million in 2004 dollars. Productivity in this country, workers' productivity went up 68%. Yet look at what share they got. Does anyone know what the change in the average hourly wage was during this period? It went from $15.68 to $15.67. So basically, statistically, no improvement at all. And so when you look at this